This is your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Monday, May 11. Taxi operators are crying out for help in light of a major downturn in business, and they are rejecting suggestions that they should be involved in public transport. The taxi operators were weighing in on suggestions from the Democratic Labour Party spokesman on small business Ryan Walters, who called on government to utilize the services of taxi operators in helping to transport commuters, given the limited amount of passengers who can now utilize public transport due to COVID-19 restrictions. The taxi operators maintain it's not feasible, and instead they are calling for government to lend them a helping hand.
It's hard for me over here, real hard.
On a good day, how much you can make on a good day? Right now.
A good day is when the tourist season in. Tell you what's good day? You can't see when the tourists are thing in here, it'd be hard for me to be able to struggle. But when the tourist season in, you can at least eat the food.
You got the day, because we is who just got the tourists coming back. Ain't nobody else. You understand? Ain't nobody else. They got the day where we come and give you at least $200 or $300 every week. At least they will still do something, because right now we ain't getting none.
In other news, the Opposition People's Party for Democracy and Development has warned Barbadians to brace for what it calls a season of untold calamity. One of the members of the party's economic team, Bruce Hannis, sounded this warning as he spelled out the implications of the latest data revealed in the Central Bank Governor's review of the first 3 months of 2020. He cautioned that Barbadians, which are already in the throes of an IMF program, will feel the pinch.
We're going into a massive economic crisis while A, already being in the hands of the IMF, and B, having experienced very poor levels of growth. To add fuel to the fire, the IMF program that we are currently in is the worst that we have ever been in our entire history with the IMF. The money that we have signed up for in this IMF program is now well over 5 times the amount of money than that of the 2 previous programs combined. The duration of this program that we're currently in is longer than the 2 previous programs combined. The debt per person being carried by this IMF, i.e. the debt for every citizen of Barbados, known as the debt per capita, is now the highest in the world for all the 39 countries that are currently in IMF program.
Hennis warned that Barbados is still too heavily dependent on tourism, and as a result, the island's economic fortunes will be dismal in the months ahead.
No clear vision has emerged to shift us from that single primary engine. In fact, 70% of the tradable component of our economy, that's those industry sectors whose output in terms of goods and services are traded internationally, 70% of that tradable component is made up of tourism. 17%, or close to 1/5 of the overall Barbadian economy, depends strongly on tourism. Therefore, as we have just seen, any decline in tourism in the tourism sector will impact us all. But that's not all. The tourism fallout will also and has also affected our very vital foreign exchange earnings in this season.
Health authorities report no new cases among the 18 tests for COVID-19 conducted by the Public Health Laboratory yesterday. The number of cases of the viral illness, therefore, remains at 84, 44 females and 40 males. No one was released from isolation today, so that number remains at 20. There have been 57 recoveries and 7 deaths since the outbreak began in Barbados on March 16. The Public Health Laboratory has now completed 3,008 tests. The Sanitation Service Authority gave special recognition to its workers at cemeteries across the island today. This morning, SSA Public Relations Officer Carl Alf Padmore praised employees at the Westbury Cemetery for their work on the front lines.
Cemetery workers play an important role in Barbados. Some people look down at you all, but Ms. Jones thought it necessary, along with Sherry's Bakery, to say thank you at this moment for the work you're doing. People want to come in and see the final product, but they don't know what you all go through from day to day. So that's why we're here to say thank you and recognize you as essential workers in Barbados. You don't always feel so, but I want you to know that's how we feel, and we want to do it while you are here early. Because we know you come to work and then you leave, so we want to go to as many of the cemeteries that we can. Mr. Niles, your superintendent, supported it. From the time he heard it, he welcomed the idea because he said to Ms. Jones that his workers work really hard. Sometimes he may be tough with you, but that's his job. He is supposed to manage. But collectively, we want you to know that we appreciate you. So if you don't mind, we have some cake here for you, and we hope that you do partake in it. You don't have to, but it's our way of saying thank you. Is that clear? Yeah. So thank you very much.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now, Director of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Carla James, says the tourism industry has suffered an estimated $32 billion drop in revenue as a result of COVID-19. She says they are actively working on a strategy to rebuild the sector.
Since the coronavirus disease COVID-19 outbreak in Guyana, 30% of employees have lost their jobs and an additional 36% have been furloughed or placed on unpaid leave in the tourism industry. Director for the Ghana Tourism Authority, Carla James, told the newsroom during a recent interview that this is according to a survey that was conducted by the Tourism Authority. The tourism industry is one of the most affected during this time, with over $30 billion in losses so far. The industry injected $62.6 billion into the economy in 2019, and it was expected to see further growth this year.
I think the minimum loss that we've had is $32.8 billion in export earnings based on the average expenditure per the international traveler, based on what I would have shared earlier.
The director explained that when the crisis is over, the industry has to be part of any national recovery strategy if it is to bounce back.
The GTA, through the survey that we would have actually done with businesses, we actually created some priority areas that we think are needed to support the businesses through this period and also for recovery when travel open up again. So one of the first things is that tourism needs to be part of any national recovery strategy. And the good thing is that GRA and the Ministry of Finance have been very receptive to all the recommendations and reports that we have been providing them with.
On the international front, the city of Wuhan, the epicenter of the novel coronavirus pandemic in China, has reported its first cluster of infection since the lockdown there was lifted a month ago, stoking concerns of a wider resurgence of the disease. The new infection comes as businesses across China restart and individuals return to work. Disneyland in China is among those businesses reopening. More in this report from Al Jazeera Television.
The government here says the coronavirus outbreak is now under control. And the Shanghai theme park is the first in the global chain to reopen since the beginning of the health crisis.
Right now, here in China and Shanghai, the COVID-19 epidemic conditions are such that we feel with the right measures in place as far as health and safety goes, that we are able to open successfully here.
Visitor numbers are capped at 24,000, roughly 30% of the park's capacity. Temperature screenings and social distancing measures are also in place. That means no selfies with Mickey and Minnie Mouse for now. But fears of a second wave of infections did nothing to deter crowds. Tickets sold out in minutes.
I feel happy. I finally have a place to take my child.
Analysts say the sellout open day points to pent-up consumer demand, but don't expect the Chinese economy to bounce back anytime soon.
I think the overall outlook is going to remain very uncertain and subdued as long as we do not have a treatment or a vaccine for the coronavirus.
Still, authorities here are hailing the reopening as a milestone in China's coronavirus recovery. It comes as Beijing is locked in a fierce war of words with Washington over its handling of the outbreak. Many believe the two countries have entered a new Cold War. The Trump White House says it has evidence COVID-19 leaked from a Chinese lab. China's foreign ministry says US leaders are using what it calls dirty tricks to mislead the world about China.
Do they really have such little moral standards and conscience that they care nothing at all but their own political interests, not even when human lives are at stake?
But the tension seemed far from the minds of those enjoying their day at Disneyland in Shanghai.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.